G'day. G'day, g'day, g'day. G'day to everyone. So it is Wednesday evening, November the 8th, and I am going to be appearing at Sligo Comedy Club tonight. McLynns Bar, curtains up at 8. I'll be doing some stand-up comedy. There'll be loads of other fabulous Irish comedians from the northwest of Ireland. It's not a competition, it's just a bit of crack. So I thought I'd jump on before I set off. I'm going to drive from Mayo up to Sligo. Take me about an hour, and then I'm going to gig. So I thought I'd jump on and say hi. You have to excuse me, I don't have my specs on, of course, as always. Hello. How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I wonder if I should keep you all while I go for a bit of a drive. See how long I can keep you. Shall I? I think I might. Let me see if I do a bit of fiddling. If I do a bit of fiddling, if I do a bit of fiddling, then I might be able to take you with me. And then we'll all be happy, won't we? So, there we go. How about that then? Lights on.
Bluetooth mode.
Bluetooth mode. For when I feel like listening to some music. And away we go. See how long I can keep you guys in reception, shall I? So we're taking off in my blue hippie van, one with all the flowers down the side. Heading off for McLynns Bar in Sligo this evening. I am of course in Mayo, but it'll only take me about an hour to get there. So away we go. I will be heading up the N17 in true West Island tradition. For those of you familiar with the Saw Doctors, of course. One of the greatest hits. I wish I was on the N17. I first encountered the phenomenon of the Saw Doctors back in the 90s when I was in Australia, and a friend had a budding musical career, and he went from an earnest young man, that's not me crunching the gears, it's my gears getting stuck on my phone cord. He went from an earnest young man with a heavy metal group called Mistress and a thing for John Bon Jovi and all that sort of thing. We went from that in the late 80s to suddenly becoming all mellow and becoming a devotee of the Saw Doctors. He announced that the squeeze box was a very sexy instrument. And then lo and behold, about 25 years later, I started encountering the phenomenon of Irish backpackers who were all big devotees of the Saw Doctors, particularly the ones who live out in the west, in Galway and Mayo. I think my favourite Saw Doctors song would have to be Used to Love Her. Turned out to be sort of the story of my life, I guess. Because here I am in Ireland. Heading towards the N17. And I used to be loved, as it were. And now I am all out here on my my Todd. That's okay. There are worse things in life than being a stand-up comedian in Ireland, heading off to do a gig. It's something I always wanted to do. Now I'm doing it. As an engineer friend of mine once said, I always wanted to be an engineer, and now I is one. I do love a good engineer joke. So anyway, as I said, I thought I'd just pop on, see how many of you are around. I think I probably will drop in and out of reception as I drive along. That's okay. We'll call it a social experiment, shall we? See how good the reception is. See how loyal my fans are. It's like, I do fear that some of you might be shallow, superficial, and even just a little bit sexist. Because some of you don't watch the videos where I have my clothes on, which is quite disturbing, isn't it? But it really does say more about you than it does about me. So, what else can I tell you? So, it was Halloween recently in Ireland. Halloween is, of course, big in Ireland. I had an American tourist ask me recently if Ireland and the Irish people are as into Halloween as people are in America, and I thought, I was very polite. I said yes, it really is a big thing in Ireland, but I thought, where do you think Halloween came from? Siobhan? It's a pagan festival. It's been appropriated. But it's where the pagan traditions and the Celtic traditions began. Halloween is definitely a big thing in Ireland, of course. But typical American fashion, they take it away and turn it into a Hallmark holiday with pumpkin picking and bloody pumpkin spice lattes and people dressing up as Hollywood characters on the 31st of October and claim it's an American holiday. But I had great fun over the Halloween weekend, because I was in a scare house, Ballina. So I've recently started doing a pantomime with the Ballina Dramatic Society. Snow White to the Core. It's on the first 2 weekends of December. If you want to come and check it out in Ballina, I will be in the cast. Quite a prominent cameo. I won't spoil the plot, but come and see me. You'll be able to pick me out, I'm sure. Ballina Arts Centre, the pantomime Snow White to the Core with the Ballina Dramatic Society. But through my involvement with the Ballina Dramatic Society, I made a couple of friends, which is how humans survive, isn't it, by interacting with other humans? It's very good for your mental health, finding other birds of a feather to flock together with. And the Dramatic Society had a couple of people in it. They were organising a spooky haunted house as a fundraiser over Halloween. So I went and did that, and my lord, it was hilarious on so many levels. I was just dressed in black head to toe, like a spooky sort of widow with a veil and a lantern, like, follow. There were several children who took one look at me and freaked out and left the haunted house early and didn't want to go through with it, which is probably just as well, because things got much scarier after they encountered me. There was a coffin room, which the coffin had a person lying there in state, and all of a sudden can sit up and scare the bejesus out of everyone. And there were plenty of jumper outers as well. It was fabulous. I was surprised and a little perturbed, however, by the amount of people that had little tiny kids in front of them by the shoulders and were just pushing them along, like in front, like little human shields, into the haunted rooms. I'd be like, does he want to leave? Is he okay? They're like, no, he's grand, and they just push him in. They were determined to get their €10 worth, and they weren't going to let the child stop them having any fun. So that was interesting. And there was one teenage boy who decided to punch a girl in the face. He said he got frightened. So he lashed out. And he punched one of the poor scarers in the face. All she was doing was sitting there minding her own business in the coffin room. And bajang, next thing you know, she's got a punch fair in the bush. Like, needless to say, the young man in question and all the friends he was with were swiftly ejected from the scare house. No one needs that sort of thing going on. Halloween's scary enough without actual physical violence coming from young men with bravery issues. But it was a great deal of fun. I really do like Ballina as a town very much. Ballina is the biggest town in Mayo, bigger than Castlebar, but not as favoured by the government with infrastructure. Until just recently, of course, when Joe Biden, 46th President of the US, decided to come back to Ballina to visit his roots again. He was there when he was Vice President. I remember being rather astonished to tune into Midwest Radio one day, accidentally, because in those days I never listened to Midwest Radio on purpose, to discover that the Vice President of the US was just 45 minutes down the road from me. And I thought, well, that just about takes a cake, really, doesn't it? Like, I used to be a reporter once upon a time that would go and chase ambulances and, well, not ambulances, but if I saw a fire truck with all its lights on, I would like do a quick U-turn and speed off after the fire truck to fit the story. And then I come to Mayo, and I was so sort of like stuck with the minutiae of a very mundane existence, tied in one spot. The bloody Vice President of the US was 3/4 an hour away from me, and I couldn't even get there to look, let alone do a story. Reasons and seasons, I guess. Any of you still with me? If I drop down in reception, I'm just yammering on to myself. It matters not one whit, I don't suppose. The nights are drawing in, you might say, here in Ireland. It is getting dark early. It's only about 5 o'clock by the place called clock, and already dark is descending. Phone is not behaving lately. It rang 2 people accidentally, so I was terribly embarrassed. not going to let me change my point of view, not at all, not one whit. He's stuck with me, I'm afraid, for the moment. I doubt the reception will last much longer, heading into the wilds of Sligo in a minute. Airport, basically. It's terribly handy living near an international airport in the west of Ireland. I once met an Irish real estate agent who was living in Western Australia, and I said, I've always wanted to go to Ireland, and he was saying there's lots of different ways to fly into Ireland, including an airport out in the middle of a bog, which was started by a mad priest in the late 70s because he saw a business opportunity when Pope John Paul came to visit in 1979. So Pope John Paul II came to visit Ireland on a papal visit, 1979, and there was local Bishop Horan, who decided he'd cash in, jump on the bandwagon, so he convinced the Irish government to pour millions into establishing another airport in the middle of a bog out in Mayo. Utterly mad, nothing around, no infrastructure. The runway was so short that when the Pope landed, they had to use tractors to turn the plane around to make it take off again. But it has all paid off because, although it's all built on religious crap and fairy tales of like an apparition that happened further down the road in like 18 like some peasant reckons they saw like the nativity scene in a paddock for no apparent reason near a little town called Knock. Something to do with the prevalence of magic mushrooms in the area, most people would think if they had any sort of critical thinking. But it's built up into a cottage industry like you wouldn't believe. And so now you can go and see like a Knock shrine and a Knock cathedral where the government keeps pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into it. And you go along and see people buying like plastic bottles in the shape of the mythical figure Virgin Mary, filled with water that is magic. In the car park they have one tap for holy water and another tap for drinking water, and the difference being that like someone in a frock and a stupid hat has waved their hand over it and said that one is holy and one isn't. I mean, you'd have to be born yesterday, wouldn't you, or brainwashed since birth? But still, keeps off the streets, I suppose. Or does it? So there's like people come from miles and miles around, all over the world, to come and indulge in a bit of religious mania around Knock, the same way they do around Lourdes. So it's all made up, but what can you do? So I'm going off to Sligo tonight, McLynns Bar, setting up a bit earlier so I can have a coffee on the way, find the place and time, that sort of thing. Like a good sensible mum and dad. But I think I should probably leave you very shortly so I can start thinking of, you know, what I'm going to say on stage. A very short set tonight. The question is always, perpetually for me, it's like not what am I going to say, not I can't think of anything to say, but like, what should I choose to say, because I have so many things I want to say. I don't have time to say it. generally, I tell funny stories from my time working in a sex shop back in Perth, WA. But that was a while ago. Stories are still funny. It is really amusing, isn't it, the way humans think. Humans place themselves at the centre of everything. They take things so personally. It's all about skewed perspective. I did a stand-up set in Dublin recently, part of which you can see on my channel, from the Irish Jester 24. It's a couple of weeks ago. So I did a set and I was remarking on how Irish backpackers in Australia on Australia Day, which is Invasion Day and historically offensive to Indigenous people of Australia, have been there for 65,000 years. Australia Day commemorates the illegal invasion and military occupation of the continent of Australia by the English government under the lie of terra nullius, right? And of course in the Republic of Ireland, and not just the Republic, in the 6 counties that will yet to be united with the Republic, there's a very strong feeling about the displacement of people from their native land by English colonialism, right? So I was pointing out how human beings are very self-serving and they tend to forget history or forget context when it suits them. You know, it's like the Irish doctors and nurses who, as soon as they graduate in Ireland, go out to Australia because they're whinging and whining that like they don't get paid enough in Ireland. They won't have enough to own a home and blah blah blah. It's very much first world problems. And then they go out to Perth or Melbourne and build themselves ugly, unsustainable houses on fragile ecosystems in a country that doesn't have a treaty with its Indigenous people, destroying the environment into the bargain, and sit around swilling Chardonnay and congratulating themselves on how well they've done by basically settling in someone else's country without any regard for the local inhabitants or the planet at large. They're basically the 21st century planters, or the brain drain immigrants from Ireland out to Australia. So it was just a general reflection, of course, on human beings being very much like, I'm alright, Jack, screw everyone else, regardless of ethnicity. And someone actually like sent me a text saying like I was having a go at the English because she's married to a tan, and I thought, really didn't understand the entire conversation, did you? Just all you heard was like English are all bad and super sensitive because she's married a tan and aspires to be British. And there's one thing I could never understand, is anyone in Ireland ashamed of being Irish and wanting to be English, because the English have done so much damage throughout the world for so long, and most of them are still condescending twats with no grasp of history. But you know, that's because they're all brainwashed with the myth of English superiority, and their memories only go so far back as Churchill and the Second World War, because they haven't read much further than that, and they just listen to everything that's on the television that's filtered to them through the focus of the night at the proms, or little monarchists waving paper Union Jacks and silly hats in front of Buckingham Palace, and they are not very good at contextualising it with the misery that colonisation has brought around the world. And they have the nerve to remain racist about anyone that might have the temerity to move to their country. And it started in Ireland too, of course. I met someone on the weekend, very funny, like another Englishman. He's now a resident in Ireland, but he voted Leave in Brexit. I did a bit of reading, he said, and decided it was a good thing to vote Leave. I'm like, we should have done a lot more reading, shouldn't you? Maybe you should have done a bit of fucking reading about the Good Friday Agreement. And then he had the temerity to say, and then he realised he'd shot himself in the foot because he wanted to go and live in Spain. Apparently without irony. But as James O'Brien says, feel compassion for the people who are hoodwinks and not feel compassion for the people that are the hoodwinking. So it seems that Boris Johnson and his scaly mates might just about get some comeuppance, or at the very least be prevented from holding office again for a while in the next election, we hope. What with all the inquiries coming out about just how vile and corrupt they are. Honestly, shame on anyone voting Conservative. 13 years. Alright, well, I'm losing light. I'm certainly going to turn the light on in the car. So I'm going to say, see you when you got nothing on. And if you're in Sligo tonight, come and see me at McLynns Bar. And if you're not in Sligo, come and see me in Snow White to the core, the Panto and Ballina Arts Centre. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And my phone is now not going to let me hang up. So funny.